In the modern battlefield, victory is no longer decided by how many soldiers stand in formation, or how large an army's budget might be. Today, wars are shaped by something far more elusive: information, speed, and innovation. Across the world, military doctrines are being rewritten. Heavy armor and massive troop deployments are giving way to smaller, faster, smarter systems. Technology has become the great equalizer, allowing nations with limited resources to challenge forces once thought untouchable. And in this new era of warfare, one technology has risen above the rest: the drone. In 2022, global military strategists watched closely as a conflict in Eastern Europe reshaped modern combat. Ukraine, facing an adversary with superior numbers, heavier firepower, and deeper stockpiles, turned to an unconventional solution. Instead of relying solely on tanks and aircraft, Ukraine deployed thousands of unmanned aerial systems, many of them inexpensive, commercially available, and rapidly modified for military use. These drones scouted enemy positions, guided artillery strikes, disrupted supply lines, and even carried out direct attacks. They were not invincible. Many were shot down. Others were lost to electronic warfare. But their low cost meant replacements could be launched almost immediately. The lesson was impossible to ignore. You no longer needed the biggest defense budget to make an impact on the battlefield. You needed creativity, adaptability, and people willing to think differently. Half a world away, that lesson did not go unnoticed. In the Philippines, a country with vast coastlines, rugged terrain, and complex security challenges, the implications were profound. The armed forces of the Philippines has long faced the reality of operating with limited resources while protecting an archipelago of over 7,600 islands. The question began to circulate quietly among engineers, students, and defense thinkers. What if the Philippines could not outspend stronger militaries, but could outthink them? What if cutting-edge defense technology didn't have to come from abroad? What if it could be built at home? Far from major defense contractors or industrial hubs, the idea began to take shape in Mindanao, specifically at Mindanao State University, Iligan Institute of Technology. Within the classrooms and laboratories of MSU-IIT, a group of young Filipino engineers and faculty members started asking hard questions. They studied global drone warfare trends. They analyzed cost structures. They examined the limitations of imported systems. And they reached a bold conclusion. The Philippines didn't need million-peso drones loaded with features it might never use. What it needed were affordable, mission-focused, semi-disposable tactical drones, designed specifically for Philippine conditions. There was no massive defense grant waiting, no foreign sponsor offering ready-made solutions. What existed instead was determination. Students from multiple engineering disciplines, electronics, mechanical, aerospace, and computer engineering, came together under a single objective: to design a drone that was cheap enough to be replaceable, capable enough to be useful, and flexible enough to evolve. The project would later be known as EVAM, a tactical drone concept built using commercial off-the-shelf components. This approach was deliberate. By using readily available parts, the team ensured that costs stayed low, repairs were simple, supply chains remained flexible, local production was realistic. The drone was never meant to be a luxury item. It was meant to be a tool. From the very beginning, the team understood one critical truth: a drone that looks impressive in a laboratory means nothing if it fails in real-world conditions. To avoid this trap, the project reached out to those who understood operational reality better than anyone: the men and women tasked with defending the nation. The Philippine Army and Philippine Navy provided insights based on actual field experience. They didn't ask for perfection, they asked for practicality. They talked about heat and humidity, coastal winds and salt corrosion, jungle terrain, urban environments, limited maintenance windows. These realities shaped every design decision. Payload capacity was balanced against range. Durability was weighed against cost. Advanced features were included only if they provided real tactical value. The result was a drone concept designed not for parade displays, but for missions where losses were expected. One of the most misunderstood ideas in modern drone warfare is disposability. To traditional military planners, losing equipment is failure, but in drone-centric operations, loss is often part of the strategy. The EVAM project embraced this reality. These drones were not designed to last decades. They were designed to be used aggressively, even in high-risk missions, without causing catastrophic financial loss if destroyed. Reconnaissance over hostile terrain, forward observation in contested zones, quick response missions where speed mattered more than survivability. If a drone completed its mission and returned, that was a success. If it didn't, but delivered critical intelligence before being lost, that was also a success. Imported military-grade drones can cost millions of pesos per unit, often requiring foreign maintenance contracts, specialized parts, and long procurement cycles. By contrast, early projections for the EVAM drone suggested a unit cost of around 300,000 pesos, or potentially even less with scaled production. That difference is not just economic, it is strategic. At that price point, the AFP could deploy drones in large numbers, saturating areas with surveillance and overwhelming enemy countermeasures through sheer volume. This is how smaller forces change the rules of engagement. While national defense remained the primary focus, the team recognized another reality unique to the Philippines. The country is one of the most disaster-prone in the world. Typhoons, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, floods. Each year brings new challenges. In many of these situations, rapid aerial assessment can mean the difference between life and death. A low-cost, locally produced drone could survey disaster zones, locate stranded civilians, assist search and rescue operations, deliver small emergency supplies. In this sense, the project was not just about warfighting. It was about national resilience. By 2023, the timing of the project aligned with a broader shift in national policy. The Philippine government renewed its emphasis on self-reliant defense, recognizing that long-term security cannot depend entirely on foreign suppliers. Investment in research and development was identified as a priority, with funding aimed at nurturing exactly the kind of innovation represented by projects like EVAM. For the students and engineers in Iligan, this was validation. Their work was no longer just an academic exercise. It was a glimpse into what Philippine defense could become. Ideas can inspire, prototypes can impress, but in the unforgiving reality of modern warfare, only systems that survive pressure truly matter. For the engineers behind the EVAM project at MSU-IIT Institute of Technology, the next challenge was no longer imagination, it was validation. Could a locally developed, low-cost drone actually function under conditions that mirror real conflict? Could it operate in environments filled with electronic interference, unpredictable weather, and human error? And most importantly, could it offer the armed forces of the Philippines something they don't already have? Designing a drone in a controlled academic environment is one thing. Deploying it in contested airspace is another entirely. Modern battlefields are saturated with threats. Electronic jamming, signal interception, GPS spoofing, small arms fire, weather extremes. Even the most advanced military drones can fail under these conditions. For a cost-efficient system like EVAM, the margin for error is even slimmer. This forced the development team to confront a hard truth early on. They could not compete with global defense giants on raw sophistication. So instead, they focused on reliability, adaptability, and scale. Ukraine was not the only case study. The team analyzed conflicts and military operations across Eastern Europe, the Middle East, the Caucasus, Southeast Asia. What they found was consistent. Expensive drones attract expensive countermeasures. Cheap drones overwhelm defenses through numbers. In many conflicts, high-end drones were reserved for strategic missions, while lower-cost systems handled the dangerous, repetitive, high-risk tasks. This reinforced the EVAM philosophy. If a drone is going to be lost, it should still be worth launching. One of the greatest threats to drones today is not bullets, it is electronic warfare. Signal jammers can cut communication links. GPS interference can send drones off course. Data interception can expose sensitive operations. Instead of attempting to eliminate these threats entirely, a near impossible task, the EVAM designers focused on damage control. Key considerations included shorter mission durations, pre-programmed flight paths, redundant communication options, simplified control logic. The goal was not to create an unjammable drone. The goal was to create a drone that could complete enough of its mission before being disrupted. In modern engineering, complexity often equals vulnerability. Highly advanced systems require specialized technicians, proprietary software, imported replacement parts. For the AFP, this creates long-term dependence. EVAM took the opposite approach. By relying on commercially available components and open design principles, the drone could be repaired, locally modified, rapidly understood by Filipino technicians. This matters in real operations. A drone that can be fixed overnight by local personnel is more valuable than one that must wait months for foreign support. EVAM was never meant to replace high-end surveillance platforms or combat aircraft. Instead, it was designed to fill gaps. Potential roles included tactical reconnaissance for ground units, coastal surveillance for naval forces, border monitoring in remote areas, rapid assessment during emergency situations. In jungle terrain, a drone that can scout ahead reduces ambush risks. In coastal regions, aerial eyes extend situational awareness far beyond the shoreline. These are not glamorous missions, but they save lives. Unlike many countries, the Philippines faces a combination of challenges rarely found together. Dense urban centers, mountainous interiors, vast maritime zones, tropical weather patterns. Any drone operating here must survive. Heavy rain, high humidity, strong winds, limited infrastructure. The EVAM team tested designs with these realities in mind, prioritizing stability and control over extreme performance. A drone that flies consistently in bad weather is more useful than one that performs perfectly only on clear days. Technology alone does not win battles, people do. One advantage of simpler drone systems is shorter training time. Operators do not need years of specialized instruction. Basic training can be completed quickly. Operational deployment becomes faster. This allows the AFP to train more drone operators, distribute capability across units, reduce reliance on elite specialists. In modern warfare, decentralization is power. Critics often ask the same question: why not just buy better drones? The answer lies in sustainability. A force that can afford 10 advanced drones may lose half of its capability after one engagement. A force that can deploy hundreds of affordable drones can adapt, replace losses, and maintain pressure. EVAM represents the second philosophy. It is not about perfection, it is about persistence. There is another strategic dimension rarely discussed. A country that can mass-produce its own drones sends a signal, not just to enemies, but to allies. It demonstrates technical competence, industrial potential, strategic independence. This does not escalate conflict, it deters it. An adversary must think twice when faced with a force capable of rapidly deploying thousands of unmanned systems. Despite its promise, EVAM faces a familiar obstacle. Money. Prototype development is one thing. Scaling production is another. Testing, iteration, certification, and operational integration all require sustained investment. Without consistent funding, even the best ideas can stall. This is where national policy, military leadership, and private industry must intersect. Innovation cannot survive on passion alone, no matter how strong. The project now stands at a critical point. It has proven concepts, real-world input, strategic relevance. What it needs next is commitment. Commitment to testing, commitment to improvement, commitment to believing that Filipino-made defense technology is worth backing. Every nation reaches moments that quietly define its future. Not moments marked by parades or headlines, but moments when choices are made, often behind closed doors, about what kind of country it wants to become. For the Philippines, the rise of projects like EVAM is one of those moments. Because this is not just a story about a drone, it is a story about self-belief. For decades, the Philippines, like many developing nations, has relied heavily on foreign defense suppliers. This dependence has brought advantages: proven technology, the established logistics, interoperability with allies. But it has also created vulnerabilities: procurement delays, rising costs, limited customization, restricted access to upgrades and source codes. In times of crisis, supply chains stretch thin, political priorities shift, export controls appear overnight, and suddenly a nation realizes that what it does not build, it does not fully control. The EVAM drone is modest when compared to flagship systems from major defense powers. It does not boast cutting-edge stealth. It does not carry massive payloads. It does not dominate the skies. And that is precisely why it matters. EVAM represents something far more important: the ability to start. It proves that Filipino engineers, students, and researchers can move from concept to prototype, using local talent, local knowledge, and local initiative. Every defense industry on Earth began this way. Many of today's global defense giants trace their origins to small teams working with limited resources. What separates success from failure is not intelligence, but continuity. If EVAM is allowed to evolve, its designs can be refined, its systems hardened, its production scaled. Over time, today's basic drone becomes tomorrow's specialized platform. Surveillance variants, electronic warfare versions, naval-optimized models. Innovation compounds if it is sustained. History is filled with examples of nations that ignored their own innovators, only to later import similar technologies at higher cost. When domestic projects are abandoned, talent leaves the country. Experience is lost, momentum disappears. Students who could have become defense engineers become overseas workers instead, and the nation remains a consumer, not a creator. EVAM stands at the edge of that decision. Building defense technology does more than strengthen the military. It creates skilled jobs, research ecosystems, manufacturing capability, technological spillover into civilian industries. Drones developed for surveillance today can become tools for agriculture tomorrow. Navigation systems designed for defense can improve disaster response. Defense innovation, when managed responsibly, uplifts the entire economy. Filipinos are known worldwide for adaptability, for finding solutions with limited resources, for improvising under pressure, for learning fast and executing well. These traits are not weaknesses. In modern warfare and technology development, they are assets. EVAM was born not from abundance but from constraint. And history shows that some of the most disruptive innovations emerge exactly that way. Large platforms are slow to replace. Small systems are not. In Ukraine, drones are lost daily and replaced just as quickly. That level of operational tempo favors countries that can produce locally, modify rapidly, replace cheaply. The Philippines, if it chooses this path, is well positioned to adopt that model. It is important to be clear. Supporting domestic defense innovation does not mean embracing conflict. It means preparedness. A drone that watches coastlines can deter illegal activity. A drone that surveys disaster zones can save lives. A drone that extends situational awareness reduces uncertainty and accidents. Strength, when transparent and controlled, is stabilizing. Projects like EVAM do not fail because they are flawed. They fail when leadership hesitates, funding disappears, responsibility is fragmented. For domestic defense innovation to succeed, it requires clear direction, long-term vision, willingness to accept early imperfections. No system is perfect at birth. Progress comes through iteration. Perhaps the most powerful impact of EVAM is invisible. It sends a message to students across the country. You do not have to leave the Philippines to build advanced technology. You do not have to wait for foreign companies to validate your ideas. Your skills matter here, your ideas matter here, and your country needs them. The Philippines now faces a familiar choice, one it has encountered many times before. To import or to invest, to consume or to create, to wait or to lead. Neither path is easy, but only one builds long-term independence. Years from now, historians may look back and ask, was this the moment the Philippines began taking control of its defense future? Or was it another opportunity quietly allowed to pass? The answer will depend on decisions made today. In Iligan, an idea took flight. Not in a factory or a military base, but in a university, built by young minds who refused to believe that innovation belonged only to others. As warfare evolves, so must those who wish to defend peace. And sometimes the most powerful weapon a nation can wield is not firepower, but faith in its own people. If you want to see more stories about Filipino innovation, military modernization, and national defense, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps amplify stories that matter. What are your thoughts on the Philippines developing its own drone technology? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.